a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Brandon the Fuck Joe Williams, nice to see you, man. Welcome back. We are going to skip the introductions and get straight to the penetration, okay? So your former episodes will be located down in the show description. You join us for something called the Mighty Morphin Sovereign Rangers, which was crazy as shit with legit bat and Ryan Sprague, and that was fucking dope. You've been doing a lot, and so that's the part where I will just let everybody know that all the ways to find you, your Williams and Williams Law Group, which we're going to talk about, as well as, you know, your YouTube and all that kind of shit, are going to be linked down in the show description, as well as your first episode on the show, so we can skip all that, and we can, again, get right to it. What the fuck have you been up to, man?
Well, the last time I was on your show, we got into, you know, the whole ambassador at large thing, and then I kind of had a huge realization. I mean, and then what happened was this was probably, when was I last on your show? I was on your show, it's been a while. It's been probably 6 months or maybe a little longer, 8 months, something like that.
It's been a minute, I'll confirm, but keep going.
So we basically live on the show, I realized that there's a section of the passport application form that plugged into some other stuff that I was talking about. And we went down that rabbit hole for a while. We were able to get diplomatic passports. The problem is that the more I studied into it, the more I realized that the diplomatic passport that is issued by the Department of State, it's sort of like it's a commercial diplomatic mission. And the more I dug into it, I realized it's a very commercialized, like even, for example, the Department of State, they offer specialized license plates for diplomats. And if you look up how those work, they work under commercial motor vehicle laws. That's why they still have registration stickers. So the more I dug into the diplomatic side of the passport system, the more I realized that it's really just sort of like a glorified commercial. It's almost as if like you're from another country and you're here on some sort of economic or business matters. And it's this weird amalgamation of like economic and business matters with like altruistic. I don't know. It's weird. So what I did was I went down that path, and then I kind of went back and I repositioned everything in a different way. So what we're doing now is we're getting the same passport we were getting before I realized all of the stuff on the show, but we've changed our documentation to where it says that we are basically non-commercial ambassadors at large. And we're getting the normal state citizen passports now, but we're getting it under the auspices of being ambassadors at large, but outside of a commercial realm. And what we're doing is we're telling the Department of State that since they don't offer non-commercial, non-motor vehicle license plates, we've developed our own, and we print our own, and we're using our own printed. We put that right in the documents that we're sending to the Department of State to let them know that we are doing this because they are not offering an alternative. So it's cool. So basically, I love it. And I think it's a whole new level of awesomeness because we're telling them that we're not, this is non-commercial. It's not a commercial thing. You're not going to tell me it's a commercial thing. You're not going to assume that it's a commercial thing and then make me have to figure out that you're assuming it and then combat that and this fucking ghosts, these shadows, boxing bullshit that they love to do. It's just, everything's right out in the open. Everything's right in the front. And it's very, very clear. And if they do not rebut that affidavit when they issue the passport, we see it as they've been notified. We're claiming that we're doing this, and then we just print off. I have a whole license plate. I can actually show you on the show the license plate that I've developed. If you want me to do that, let me show you guys.
Hell yeah. Guys, video version located down in the show notes. You know this is going to be good. You've got a wicked setup with your license plate. I saw you with that shit-eating grin displaying it there, and it was awesome.
Thank you. So if you go to my website and you go to the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition page and you go down to the very bottom, you will see the newest version of the explanatory statement, which includes all of the updates from the previous show that we did. I actually did some more updates to it just a few days ago on the 8th. If you go down, you will see here, it says the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition, and it says here, fee passport for non-commercial foreign national ambassador at large, right? And then as you scroll down, you will see that a lot has changed in this document. And we are stating over and over again that we are not commercial. We are not involved in a commercial activity. And then we say here, let's see here. I added some more stuff recently. Yeah, so right here, due to the fact that I am not operating a commercial or for hire motor vehicle, I have no choice but to create custom plates off the internet while using my private motor carrier DOT number. My vehicles are not used for commerce, so as per federal or state code, they are classified as automobiles, private use vehicles, etc., not motor vehicles. I have looked into the copyright and trademark of the Department of State seal and have determined that the seal is not explicitly unavailable for private individuals to use. I will be printing and using diplomatic plates that are entirely outside the purview of commercial activity, and I would like to be transparent in my appreciation for your making available a type of plate that protects and identifies me as a legal foreign government as per 18 USC 11 and also an internationally protected person pursuant to 18 USC 112. And that is, so not only are we assuming that they love the fact that we're printing our own plates, but we're actually thanking them for protecting us with our created plates, which is hilarious.
And that you're using the logo. Good job. You know, it's
and then right here is the plate right here.
Yeah.
Now you click on that link. This will come up, and all you do is you just hit edit design, and then you just swap out the number for your number. So you just click here and you just type in, let's see.
Can I put like a lightning bolt on it?
Let's see. Someone made this for me, but I know it's this easy. Let's see. How do I? Oh, there we go. And then all you do is hit save and continue, and then you buy it. Literally, it's that easy. That's how easy it is.
How often do you get pulled over with this thing?
Never. If you wanted to change this here, let's say you wanted to do Nation of Expanding.
Yeah.
Let's see if it'll fit. Oh, Jesus.
I'll scrunch it down a little bit there. Yeah. Well, it had it vertical, so on the last line, it may be line sensitive. If you did one, like Nation of, and then space, like enter expanding, you know, and then
the size
stacked it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But I see what you mean. That's dope as shit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Anyways, I think you get the idea. But
I do.
Nation. Oh, here we go. Try this out. Kaboom!
Hell yeah.
Look at that, bro.
That's what I'm talking about.
So there you go. That's how you guys would do it. And you can see that took all of 20 seconds. And then you hit save and continue. And then now you have your plate, and then you add to cart.
Okay, that's how I buy it. But how do I get out of the fact that my car now has a plate and that the government expects me to fill that thing in and pay them money whenever they send me that letter for a sticker?
So we are still not completely totally sure on how all that works. I would say as of right now, the way I would answer that question is there has to be some sort of a bill of sale, and if you don't have a bill of sale, then just write one up between you and your friend, or you and your wife, or you and whoever. And then what you're doing is you're gonna create an affidavit, and you're gonna say, from the person who's buying the vehicle, quote unquote, in the bill of sale, you get the bill of sale notarized, and you get the affidavit notarized. And you're just going to mail that in with the certificate of title or whatever else. You're going to mail in a copy of all of that. And you're going to say, this vehicle is no longer used as a for hire motor vehicle, and it's now fully private use. You can you might need to check out your state laws a little bit, because some of the state laws, they call private use vehicles motor vehicles, but then they have two different versions of motor vehicles. For example, a for hire motor vehicle or a private use motor vehicle. California, they call it automobile versus commercial motor vehicle. So the terminology changes a little bit. You can use the federal stuff if you want, which makes it more simple. Or if you want to check out your state codes, if you want to be more specific, you can. But the federal codes will be fine. It's the same thing. It's just the terminology changes a little bit by state. And what I would do is I can show you how I did mine. Let me give me just a second. Actually,
yeah,
I
you're
can
good.
show you.
And that's really the question, that's been on my mind with that is like, how do you replace the one that you just bought? That's awesome. I love fucking expanding reality. But how do I replace that? Let's say air quotes legally. I don't care about what I mean to say legally is just like legitly. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
To where it's not an issue, to where there's no like cop pulling me over going, actually, you were registered to this because of this VIN number. And then how is that not then maybe classified as a stolen vehicle? I don't know. The Matrix is fucking weird. This is what I'm saying. I love the ninja moves. I just want to know how to execute them.
You even after you send everything into the government or the state or the Department of Motor Vehicles or whatever, there's always a chance you might still get pulled over. So obviously a lot of that comes down to your own ability to just deal with the emotions of the police officer. It's not very, that's a skill in itself. That's a whole separate skill set. That would be more along the lines of just saying that I don't get pulled over. Cops literally it's like a spiritual thing. I could go 200 miles an hour all day long and go right past a cop, and they're just not going to pull me over. But if they did, it's very, very simple. I'm a foreign diplomat. This is my passport. You can call the Department of State. I've already reviewed your diplomat and consular immunity guide for law enforcement. I do realize that you have the ability to detain me until you can verify my information, and I am in total agreement. And I understand that anyone could tell you any bullshit about them being a diplomat or a consular, and I'm more than happy to sit here and calmly be detained until you can verify my identity. And if you don't have the phone number for the Department of State hotline to call and verify my identity, I'd be more than happy to supply that for you. That's all I would do. Because the phone number to the Department of State is on that PDF form. It's on the, we can pull that up as well. Let me just pull that up. I actually found that, just by the way, just the other day, I was just kind of looking through the internet, and I was like, I wonder where else this is located. You can actually find that on the passport Department of State website. They actually shared that as a public document. I thought it was more of an internal document. I didn't think it was ever like an illegal internal document.
Sweet, look at that thing. Damn.
That's an Ultima GTR. It's a kit car that I really like. It's
dope.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to Diplomat and Consular Immunity Guide for law. And look, it comes right up. See?
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at it. Now look, U.S. Department of State uploads, state.gov uploads PDF file. Click, ba-boom. This is what I have on my website. It's the same fucking thing. So this is not, I thought originally it was like an internal document. It is totally not an internal document. It is a public document. So what I would do is if you want to, it's going to take a lot of ink and shit. You can go to like Kinko's or something, print this bad boy off and keep this in your car. Keep this in your car. You can even print it in color. Honestly, it's a beautiful it's a beautiful document. I mean, the colors and the pictures, and they put a lot of effort into this. It's not a lot of reading either. A lot of these people who get pulled over by police, they hand these tomes over to the police officer.
Yeah.
Police officer's not going to read that. Okay. Now, if you hand a police officer this is a very beautiful, it's from the Department of State. Look at all the blank pages, huge preface. Look, we're already on page 10 of 52.
Yeah. Fucking A.
And we've barely even read anything. Look at this.
It's like a kid's book. Yeah, really.
It's literally a kid's book. It's absolutely glorious. So we have the entire background. We have the legal and practical basis of immunity, right? I mean, you could go so far as to say, officer, just in case, you're not aware, I don't want to put you in a precarious position. I actually have the Department of State, from the Department of State website, last published in 2018. I have the diplomat and consular immunity guide, and then you just inform the officer that you are an ambassador at large, because there's different levels of the definition of the word consular versus the definition of the word diplomat is a very, very, very huge difference in diplomatic immunity. So you want to tell them you're a diplomat, not a consular. Consular, when you actually look at it more in detail, it actually has a bit more of an economic and commercial aspect to it, which is why it has a much lower immunity, right? So we have here, it even talks about nationals. It talks about permanent residents of the United States. So you are a national, a non-citizen national of the United States. That's not the key thing that you want to tell them, because that's getting more and more equated with the sovereign citizens, which you do not want to be associated with at all. That's how you get, once you get classified in that, it's going to be much harder emotionally to deal with the police officer. You want to be classified as a foreign diplomat, and you want to operate as a foreign diplomat of your own nation, and you are an ambassador at large, which we will be able to find in here. I think there's even like a little grid, actually, that they have in here, and it shows the different classifications of immunity. It's really cool. Let's see. So you can see there's definitely some text here. But if you were to really boil this down, this is probably like maybe 6 to 8 pages of like normal paper. You see, it's really not even, if not even less, if not even 5 of real actual text, as you can see here, right?
A lot of it's fluff and big text and graphics. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's got a lot of cool colors. I recommend, you could even print this out on really nice paper, and you could even do like a brass ring. You could turn this thing into one hell of a fucking presentation. These guys who have these beat up, fucked up, cigarette ash soaked binders, and they have these fucked up coffee stained papers that are located inside of these fucked up plastic. That's not really very good presentation, right? I should print this and put it in my car. I haven't even done that. This is actually a great idea. I'm going to probably go down to Kinko's, and I'm going to print off this whole thing in color and put it in my car. I'm not going to put it on my bike because my bike doesn't have anywhere to store anything. But I will put it in my car. Okay. And this
you
is...
can even load all this shit on a thumb drive for your bike and just give it to the cop for his computer and his thing.
That's true. Yeah. Well, they're not going to put anything in their computer.
That's fair. Probably not.
Here we go. So here's here's Appendix C. Here we have a full screen on this. This is the full super simple breakdown, right? Diplomatic, consular. I don't know what TECO is. International organizations, right? So you would be a diplomatic agent. And can you be arrested or detained? No, with a footnote. Can you enter their residence subject to ordinary procedures? No, right? Go down to the footnote number 1. Reasonable constraints, however, may be applied in emergency circumstances involving self-defense, public safety, or the prevention of serious criminal acts. So that would be how they would have to deal with you as a diplomatic agent, ambassador at large. Okay.
Could they somehow prove that you going 200 miles an hour constitutes as a serious criminal act, and so therefore they could detain you under that guise?
In order for it to be a serious criminal act, there would need to be a victim, and they would need to be willing to press charges. So if you going 200 miles an hour caused someone to be hurt, and that person who was hurt was there to be identified, and after being identified, they did decide to press charges, and then they did actually, in fact, press charges on the spot with the police officer, then yes. So you have to have a victim. The victim can't be the police. It can't be anyone from the state. It can't be the state itself. It would have to be another individual, and they would have to press charges on the spot to fit that category.
What if the individual is a cop and he's the one that you injure? Does he then just take his badge off and then now he's a human being that's pressing?
I don't know. That's a judicial nightmare. I have no idea.
That's this fucking world, man. It's riddled with paradox and all kinds of crazy woo-doo shit.
I mean, don't hurt cops, obviously.
No, of course not. Let's say incidentally.
I teach all this because it shouldn't be contentious with the police, really. It's just very, very, I think the number one issue with everybody, I don't get a lot of practice because, like I said, spiritually, for whatever reason, I truly, truly feel when you really understand this and you really understand where you are, you cease to exist. You spiritually and physically cease to exist to law enforcement. I literally do not exist to law enforcement. Like, I'll have law enforcement in front of me in a line at a restaurant, and I'll say hi and I'll buy them lunch. Besides that, I literally don't exist to law enforcement. Like, I'll be going 100 and somebody else will be going 80. And that person will get pulled over and they won't even see me. They literally won't even see me. So, a lot of times people have a lot of upset and a lot of irritation and a lot of violent thoughts over the fact of fairness. That's not fair. This guy was going 100 and I wasn't. It comes down to an imperceptible, almost indescribable self-esteem, not to be mean, self-esteem, self-knowledge, self-certainty. It is the manufacturing of your environment starts within your own mind. And if you spend a lot of time feeling as though it's unfair and this kind of thing, you will actually experience dramatically more attention and problems from law enforcement. Whereas if you just sit down and say to yourself, there's something that I'm missing here, and you take the time and you study and you change your own mind, you will realize that the police will magically stop being interested in you more and more and more until you will hit the fact that you are completely invisible to law enforcement.
Hear, hear. It's not something I can explain any farther than that, because for every person, it's going to be a different experience. It's going to be a different speed. It's going to be a different growth level. It's going to be, some people might go from being incarcerated right now as we speak to being invisible in 24 hours. And someone else, it might take them 10 years to become completely invisible to law enforcement. But it's a path that anyone can go down. It is a fascinating path. I was pretty much invisible to law enforcement most of my life for whatever reason. So I never really had much of a spiritual issue with law enforcement to begin with, but I know that people who do, there might be a little bit of a longer runway on that. So, but the more you complain, the more you bitch and moan about the unfairness of the system and the unfairness of this and that, the system is the entire legal system and the entire law enforcement system is a symptom of our own inability to understand and stand and be law enforcement within the confines of our own existence and our own. It is a disease that is nothing more than just a physical symptomatic disease. And if we were to solve that issue within our own minds, then law enforcement itself, the police, the commercial side of the police would cease to exist in itself automatically.
So it's this whole like reaching out and handling the police. That's not really the solution. The solution is handling ourselves, increasing our understanding and our confidence in our education and our enlightenment, sharing our own personal education and enlightenment with others. And then what will happen is that the police will automatically be handled within the confines of that activity. And anything that's done to try to reach out and handle the police prematurely before having accomplished the prior point of accomplishing it within yourself will do nothing more than create warfare and difficulty, and it will stretch out forever until the end of time. So with that said,
Brandon Joe Williams, everybody. God damn, dude. Yes. Fuck yes. It's the victim's bully idea. It's like that bullies will cease to exist the second the victims stand up and just decide not to be victims. It's a fascinating concept, and it's actually scalable. So it makes a ton of sense. I love what you said, man. Just wanted to point it out.
Yeah. So I am the guy that has been chosen by whoever, God or whatever you want to say, to point people towards the most effective and simplest way to empower yourself through educational material. That's basically what I do. Right. And I feel that this diplomatic and consular immunity guide is powerful, bro. Super powerful. Because you got to think the Department of State, I don't really know how it all works. The Department of State, I believe it's like one of the most senior departments in the entire government. It's like daddy energy to the cops, right? So you start getting involved in anything that comes from the Department of State. The passports come from the Department of State. Diplomatic immunity is found under the Department of State. The Department of State is completely separate from the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Department of Transportation. It is, you know, and I'm sure there's probably a way that you could even subpoena the Department of State. Let's say, for example, you did get into a lawsuit with a police officer over some sort of traffic incident. And it was like, oh, you know, this and that bullshit about, you know, diplomatic, this and that. I doubt police don't want to have anything to do with diplomatic anything. They are very, they're very afraid of doing anything with anyone who may have any sort of diplomatic anything. So you got to think, when you get pulled over, if you're all weird and you're all like, and you're all like really kind of not certain, and it's kind of weird, and it's like, first off, they're thinking like, is this person on drugs, etc. But then they're also thinking like, okay, here's another thing. Let's say you drive a 1992 Honda Civic and the windshield is half shattered, and it's got two different paint colors on it, and you've got a temporary donut tire on one of the tires because the other tire went flat 4 weeks ago. But you've got a diplomatic, and then you've got a bunch of trash in your back seat. You've got some McDonald's on your passenger floor, and it looks like your car hasn't been cleaned or dusted, and it's expelling black soot from the back of the car. That is not going to, you know, the police officer is going to start wondering, you know, is this some sort of forgery, or is this person, you know, this is natural emotional behavior of a human being. This has nothing to do with being law enforcement, has nothing to do with being a police officer, has nothing to do with the LAPD. It has to do with any human being. Even a gas station attendant would look at a situation like that and be like, something's wrong here. Do you see? And once you have someone, once they kind of sniff and they kind of get the hint that something's wrong, generally it's not that easy to just, you know, kind of knock that person off that path, especially if they're a police officer. So you want to do everything in your power. Again, this is not about pretending as though you are a diplomat. This is about actually physically, mentally, and emotionally becoming an ambassador at large. It is actually happening. The U.S. Code and the government does not need to give you any approval. That is a slave, brainwashed mindset that you have to get out of yourself. There are people sending affidavits to the government all day long for years. None of that is required. There's only one person on the entire planet that can truly give you ambassador at large status, and it is yourself. It is a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual impossibility that it will ever come from anyone else from now until the end of time itself, until the sun itself expires. So it has to be from you, and the only way that you can give yourself that gift is through education and enlightenment. And that is it. That is the end of the story. And if you're searching for that to be given to you, or for that to be more clear from some external source, you will be searching forever. You will search until you realize that is not the search.
Then what is okay. I fucking could not agree more. And so this hits at like the core of all of this, because it's like, then why all the paperwork? Because now I've got to unwind myself from all the contracts I don't even know that I'm in. And what if I miss one, and then that's the one that they like go, you missed that. And it's like, but that was a phone bill from like 1997. We didn't even have phones back then. What the fuck are you talking about? So
no. So this is the linear path. You are coming to your own conclusions. You are deciding for yourself how you are going to be, and then you are simply informing these agencies of the decision now complete.
I know it's not asking for permission. The thing is like, how do you know where all you need to detach from? Because it seems like every time we talk, we discover together there's more and more and more shit. You know what I mean? Are you?
No.
Because the point.
Last time there was nothing new from last time. It was just something different within the confines of a contract we were already well aware of, which is the Department of State contract, right? No, it's just you are going to think in your mind, where are all these different areas that I have these contracts? I'm going to clarify. I'm going to first clean up my own contract with myself, and then once that's completed, now I'm going to clean up that contract with everybody else, right? So
love it.
When you create that, when you clean up that contract with everybody else, what you're doing is you are going to think, okay, what are all the contracts I have? Driver's license, marriage license, concealed carry permit, mortgage license, passport, taxes. Those are the basics, right? You're going to go through and clean up all the basics. You don't need to rack your head and go fucking berserk. Once you clean up the basics, you've already, because again, a lot of what's in law is the proving of intent. If you've cleaned up a whole bunch, it's like you've already, just a handful, the basics, you've already shown great intent, right? So now it's like they can't come and say, oh, you have this one that's blah, 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 blah. You're going to be like, you aren't playing the game with me. You have to prove intent. That doesn't establish intent. Intent is established through patternization a lot of times in the law, right? So a one-off wouldn't establish a pattern, right? You're trying to... You're establishing a pattern with the clearing of your various contracts and your various mailings. And a cool thing about doing it publicly, which a lot of people have an incorrect definition when you start getting into these areas of public and private. Public actually means involving some sort of governmental employment position. It's a huge misunderstanding within the confines of our group, right? People think that public mean anything put out into a public space, like a social media. That's not it at all. Public literally has to do with public office. Okay. So public versus private, the actual definition of that, just to clear that up, means involved in some sort of governmental commercial seat or chair, or some sort of volunteer employee or officer position within the confines of the federal government versus outside of the commercial government, not having to do with government or commercial government or anything having to do with being an employee or officer or acting as an employee or officer of the federal corporation. So when I say publicly saying something, like, for example, I publicly say a lot of things. I mean, my whole life is practically on display, right? And I'm okay with that. The more you do something like that, that's the whole point of like a public recorder, a county recorder, is you're taking something that no one knows about it and you're putting it into a public space, but it's not a public space by the definition of public that I'm referring to before, public versus private. That's where a lot of people get really confused. Oh, you're going into the public. No, you're not going into the public unless you put on there acting on behalf of officer or employee, or you put your all caps name on there, which is an officer or employee of the federal corporation, as long as you stay away from all that shit, you're not going into the public in terms of public versus private. You're going into the public in a different definition, which means you're showing intent. You see, you're always showing intent. So let's say you do get into a court case, and now it's like, oh, blah 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 blah. You're like, no, buddy, no. And that's why nobody sues me. That's one of the many reasons why nobody sues me. I would love to see someone sue me. My God, I'd turn that thing into a fucking spectacle. It'd be like goddamn fucking Roman chariot gladiator races, and I'd be the one paying for all the advertising. Okay, so
the thought of you though for the clip art for that of riding a chariot, they're two rhinos with wings or something fucking awesome, right?
And I'm in a pickle outfit. You got to make it. You got to really clean it up, And I'm with the Sultan of Slojamistan, and we're on the fucking chariot, right?
Yeah, you've got a pterodactyl on the leash flying above you. Like everything's awesome. Everything's just so cool.
But yeah, so it's a matter of you're living a life where back in the day, if you really wanted, this is an interesting way of thinking about it. I always expand my reality on this show. How ironic.
Come on.
Let's go back to 1850. Okay, 1850. We're going way back. We've got these brick roads. We've got the trolleys. You hear the ding, ding, ding of the trolleys. You've got the clippity clop of the horses. You've got the carriage wheels rolling along the brick roads. You've got people, kind of yelling outside of their, hey, come in now. You got the little bath spa type things where there's a hotel room upstairs and there's the bath there, and they're outside maybe everybody's reading newspapers. You got the newspaper boy, the whole thing, right? And
you really took us there, dude. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm so there. Thank you for that. Fuck.
And let's say you want to allow people to, in general, know what you're doing in some sort of a public sphere. Not, again, I'm going to keep pounding on this because it gets confused all the time. Not from a position of, because back then, 1850, we didn't even have the federal citizen status. So public versus private didn't really even exist in 1850 at all. So you could say whatever you want or do it. The 14th Amendment. So it was 1871. It wasn't until 21 years later. We're in 1850 right now. It wasn't until 21 years later before the whole public versus private thing was even born. So you couldn't even confuse it at that point. It didn't even exist. There was no social media. So what options do you have to broadcast this cool new thing or cool new invention, or the fact that there was a marriage that occurred and you want local towns to know what's going on? What was the version of, let's say, maybe a social media that existed in that time period? It was the county recorder. So the county recorder was responsible for information that was going to be publicly published, and people could go to the county recorder to get information as needed. It was sort of like an informational hub. When you click into Facebook and you look at your feed, that would be the same thing as physically going into or mailing a request into the county recorder's office. If you wanted other people to know that you bought a dog or that you ate a fucking delicious meal, look how pretty my delicious meal is, you would put the delicious meal into a picture. You would send that picture to the county recorder, right?
I just got this visual of this lady like sketching her food every day and submitting it. She's like, no, this is important. I got 3 laps.
You got like a lithograph, and she's like, yeah, push it down.
He's like, shouldn't you be like sewing these clothes or some shit? She's like, no. I'm getting new followers. People God, 3 people asked for what I wrote today.
She's like, Betsy's waiting for my update today, and I ain't gonna let her down. And pressing the lithograph down.
You know it happened.
She's got a leather bib on, like fucking kiss the printer, dude. Like
kiss the printer. I don't know why this is so funny, but it is. I love it.
So it's like going on social media and there's 16 people on there all the time. That's basically what it was. I'm just assuming all this from all my research, right? I mean, the county recorder isn't concerned with 8 towns over. I mean, really, each town might as well be its own fucking planet back then. I mean, what are you gonna, you could rob a liquor store and then you could drive to the next town and nobody's ever gonna know about it hardly. I don't really know how all that worked. I mean, even a good example of this is even in the serial murderer documentary. I'm basically a white girl. Even in the serial murderer documentaries that you can watch on Netflix, which I love, by the way, because I'm a white girl. They talk about in the 60s and 70s and 80s, like with the Ted Bundy stuff and all that, they didn't have inter-police station communications. So people are like, in today's world, we're so connected that you can't think like, oh my God, in 1850, how did they even, but even in the fucking 60s and 70s, they didn't know, the police station over here didn't know what was going on with a police station 60 miles from them.
You drive a county over and murder people all your life and then just hop back over the county line. Nobody knew.
Ted Bundy, he escaped prison twice, which is crazy. His story's fucking totally nuts. Traveled across the whole country, all the way down, stealing cars. And Utah didn't even know about it. He was in Utah for a while. They didn't even know about it. And then all of a sudden he was killing all these people. And then all of a sudden they woke up to it. Right. And then he went down to California and nobody knew for months and months and months that anything was, and then all of a sudden people started coming up dying. And then they arrested him and he gave him a fake name and they didn't even know who he was for a while. Even after that point, they had him in custody and they couldn't figure out who he was. And he had murdered a bunch of people. And he had been all over the place, all over the West Coast. So we're talking even just 50 years ago, we didn't have the capacity to really do any of that kind of thing, right? So it's an interesting point, like, the county recorder and public information, for example, public information can be used against you as well to prove intent, right? So what you put into the public, not public versus private, but public meaning just, into a space where other people can easily see it and it can be easily seen, especially over a long period of time, for example, like on a website or something like that. You are putting it into a public sphere. The problem is that, let's say, for example, you're arrested. And let's say, for example, you're in jail for 6 weeks. During that time, your website goes down. That's why the public recorder, the county recorder, is so important, because the county recorder, it's always going to be there basically forever. It's never going anywhere. So what you're doing when you file something in the county recorder, you're ensuring that it is a public communication forever. And that public communication can be, hey, this event took place. That public communication can be absolutely anything. In a lot of the big cities, they're starting to lose that, because we are starting to lose our country. But in the smaller places, like where you're at, for sure, it's not going to be an issue. You could probably record a photocopied color photo of you gaping your own asshole, and they'd be like, "Yes, Mr. Thomas, this will be $25 to record this for you." You could
probably. So I was wondering what to do with all these things. So good, leave my mark, right? My legacy. This is the only thing you submitted, It's the only thing on record. It's lasted forever.
Yeah, I just drove 3 hours. I'm a bit tired. I wanted to record this gaping asshole picture, please. It's not for you, lady. You put that in the file there. If you want a copy, you can copy it later, but don't let me see it. That's copyright infringement.
I wouldn't mind some notes, on lighting, on exposure, both light and other,
But yeah, so that's why the county recorder is kind of dying, I guess you could say, or becoming less of a, and you can even go online and you can even type in, what is the purpose of the county recorder? And you can do a little research on county recorders. The recorder's office, this is from Los Angeles, so I'm not thrilled about reading this, but we'll read this because they're bad. The recorder's office is responsible for recording legal documents that determine ownership of property, as well as maintaining files of birth, death, marriage, and real estate records for Los Angeles. What is your county, Brandon?
Parker County.
Parker
I had
County.
to think about it because we're right on the edge of Parker and Palo Pinto. Parker. Yeah.
Parker County
TXs.
Recorder's Office. Let's see what we got here.
You know, I picture too that each of these positioned people get those little recorders, those horrible music instruments that are like from Satan himself, and that they play a certain tune and they all appear in the woods together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like elves, like forest elves.
Yeah, like fae. Yeah, like notary fae.
So we have Parker County, the state of Texas, county of Parker County, Texas. Let's do a screen share. And I'll tell you one thing I can say that's very funny about county recorders is the farther out in the boondocks you go, the hotter girls you find running the fucking county recorder's office. I don't know what it is. It is a glorious conspiracy. I've brought it up before on a couple other shows, but holy shit, I've fallen in love probably 3 times just looking up random counties, looking up their, let's go to the staff right here. You ready for some hotties? Let's see what we got in your area. Oh, no
Thanks for classing
pictures.
up the show.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
they're like, nah, this dude's coming. I mean,
Hold
they
on a
got those.
second.
Maybe you click on it, it goes to their
Lila, that's a sexy name. Do we have a
their
picture of
calendar
Lila?
cover shot.
Oh,
Well, how's your
Not
theory?
good
I
for
agree
Parker
with you.
County.
I agree with you, dude. Smoke show. Did you see that?
let's see Jane. Hold on. I'm not giving up yet.
No. Jane Wills. Well, we won't say. It's public.
Damn it. There's no picture for Jane.
They had to take it down. She was so hot. They got too many emails. Too many dick pics going to parkercounty.com.
Too many ass gapers, running down there. All right.
They
Anyways,
just submitted for the public record. They're like, throw it in the pile.
so funny. So what do we got here? We gonna go down to
Yeah, the building's crazy. It's like a Tataria building. It's wild. They had a whole thing about
because
the
smaller the
statue down
county, the more roots they have into the real shit,
Right.
which is this shit, right? What do we have here? We've got permitting probation,
You probably click on the COVID case numbers. It just says LOL, and then there's
sheriff,
middle finger.
treasurer. I don't know why they have all these different sections. Let's see.
Audio only audience. I know that you guys are having fun listening to our voices, but there are things that we're sharing here. That's the pause and the ams and ums and all that kind of shit. So we're fucking around over here on the video version. If you want to check that out, it is located directly down in the show description. As well as if you want the transcripts of these, we're starting to do that. They're all over on the Patreon completely for free. So y'all can just sign up for free member or just go look at them as you want. Don't sign up, just bounce, man. Either way, down there, just want to let y'all know.
Audio listeners are missing out on all of the absolute edge of your seat thrilling websites of the very small county of Parker County's local county recorder's office. So I don't know why you
Unique
wouldn't be
font choices. I mean, it's
this
looking-
is this is cutting edge. This is practically a thriller documentary at this point. Anyways, what is the purpose of the county recorder? You can look into it more. Don't look into it in the big cities. It's bad. But you're going to go down to maybe something a little better. Maybe even Wiki I would probably go to faster than I would go to. Here we go. This is interesting. We got an old ass photo.
Frederick Douglass kicking it.
So the is a government office tasked with maintaining public records and documents, especially records relating to real estate ownership that provide persons other than the owner of a property with real rights over that property, right? Let's see.
Frederick Douglass, you see that? First recorder of deeds.
Yeah.
District of Columbia.
County recorder. County recorder of deeds. I don't know if that's the same thing. Anyways.
And what's the county of recorder's usefulness as far as your sovereignty goes?
Well, it's a permanent record of that of which is whatever it is that you're trying to state. For example, if I don't think this is quite correct in terms of it says especially. So it does maintain public records, but it's getting more and more to the point where they're only dealing with real estate ownership. And then you look at the definition of real estate, real property.
Not to be confused with reality. I love that.
Yeah. Parcels of land. And I don't know. I would need to look into this more. I've never done a whole lot with the county recorder myself. It's just kind of one of those very old, very interesting parts of our union that is if you would like to file something in the public in today's world, it's a little different because now you can have it on a website, you can have it wherever. The problem with that is just that if the website were to go down or something like that, it would no longer be available.
Yeah, so you want to submit that just for the record. Like I said,
yeah, you can submit things into the record, and then you can always direct any legal situation or anybody to that particular public record, and then that public record would establish intent, or it would establish whatever it is. I mean, actions establish intent better than anything else. So there's also a lot of people filing a lot of shit, and then they may not behave in the same way that they file, which would be bad. But basically, it's all about you're living your life in a way where you're establishing the difference between public and private. Public meaning your all caps corporation, which is a taxpayer by definition, which is a employee or officer of the federal corporation, which is a person, right? You're separating that out from yourself, and then you're also separating out what is private, meaning uncommunicated to the general public at large and unavailable to be viewed or experienced by the public at large, versus something that is publicly communicated, which would mean information or situational information or intent communicated in some sort of written form that is available readily to the public. And I believe that even in the county recorder's office, you can there's a search function. You can search for people's names. You can search for addresses. You can search for things that may be involved in some sort of public sphere that someone may have filed something on. Right.
Right.
So, the sort of like a 2023 version to some degree of the county recorder's office would be social media.
Right.
So, but with that said, we can go back to your original question. I'm pretty good at remembering these things.
You're crushing it.
You asked me, how do we handle the situation when you're in an automobile and you get pulled over, or if you're still registered or whatnot? Remember that?
Yeah. Just about like, how do you take the switch from the plate you made to taking the sticker off, not going and getting your registration or inspection or any of that bullshit done anymore, and you just driving around freely. And that if you get pulled over, which I agree with you in the invisibility cloak thing, I'm totally there with you on all that, dude. If you get pulled over, them just going, yeah, all you did was put a fake plate on this. None of this was done properly. Fuck off. And you're like, no, I'm an ambassador at large. I'm like, fuck off, right? How does that go down? I mean, nicely, because you're not disrespectful to cops,
I would just say, I'm a foreign diplomat, and this is my my passport. And if you're unfamiliar with the Department of State kind of guidelines and that kind of thing, and then if they say, what country are you from or whatnot, that would be a little more complicated, because you'd have to explain that diplomatic community is not based off of a country. It's based off of a nation, right? And you could actually show them 8FAM 505.2 if they wanted to see it, where it shows that example of global women's issues being the actual example. But a more readily, I think a better example to use for the police would be the United Nations. You would say the United Nations has diplomatic community. The United Nations is not a country. It's not a location, right? So the way that the Department of State actually operates is it operates off of you could say something like a nonprofit groups, basically, is how diplomatic community is actually, because it's a way that they can think with the information within the confines of their reality. So you would say, I'm a part of the Nation of Expanding Realities or the Nation of the Amnesty Coalition. And you would say, I am a ambassador at large, diplomatic, whatever the term was from the other thing, from the Amnesty Coalition by that point, especially if you hand them the diplomatic and consular immunity guy with the phone number to the Department of State, you would just, at that point, I wouldn't really probably answer many other questions. He would already be like, what the flying fuck am I looking at? He may request that you produce insurance. That would be kind of up to you how you want to handle that. If you have insurance in the private automobiles don't require insurance, but it's always optional. If you wanted to get it, you can get it. There's nothing stopping you from getting an insurance policy. So it's kind of up to you how you want to handle that situation. If you have insurance, I'm self-insured. I have a bond with the U.S. Treasury, so I would just confuse him even more because I would actually hand him a copy of that bond. It's good to, in my opinion, it's good to have things on you that the cops never heard of or seen in his whole fucking life. Because by the time he gets probably 2, 3, or 4 items that fit that category, he's not going to have a fucking clue what to do with you. Now, at that point, he is going to go back to his cruiser. He's going to call into supervisor. He's going to do this and do that. At that point, you're kind of way over into the more hassle than you're worth category already. So as long as you're not being combative, being weird, acting as though you're coming down off of meth, which a lot of people do, reaching around for things that may be in a car that's very dirty. Who knows? Is he trying to get a gun or a knife? As long as you're not fitting any of these categories, I would say by then they might not even call the Department of State. I think by then they're probably just going to let you go most of the time. And then obviously, as long as you have your passport straightened out, once they call the Department of State, they're going to be told that, that this person should not be detained. Do not detain them. I don't think they tell the officer much of anything else. I think that's all they say. They say, this guy, don't detain him. And if yes, he's not really going to be able to ask any other questions or anything. That's just my assumption. I've had police tell me that they doubt that they even call the Department of State at all. I've had some reports where they take the information off of the passport card and they use it in their state system to locate your driver's license. And then they write a ticket based off of the driver's license. But I've only heard of that happening when the driver themselves is combative. When you're combative, it's the fuck you energy. Once you get a copy of that fuck you energy, ooh, that's not good, man. That's not going to be fun for you.
Yeah, and you don't need to. And that's the best thing about having your shit straight like this. And that's why we love talking to you about this, dude. You give us a lot of confidence with this, but perspective as well. And this was one of the things I quote from you from our first show all the time. It's like 1776 without the bodies. I say Brandon Joe Williams said that shit. I love it because it's such a great quality to present for this type of information, because there are a lot of people talking about this right now, man. And I've come across a lot of things. I'm reading a lot of books right now, fucking all this shit is in my,
look at that.
Reading like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
I've got a copy of the Constitution back there. I have seriously been doing this, and Ryan Sprague and I, and you're joining us for this, are starting a community. And so guys, this is a serious thing. So we're asking serious questions on this. And if anybody out there has any questions, because you're going to be coming back more often, I think we're going to talk about that. But we're going to be doing this a little bit more regularly. So if y'all have questions, please submit them and we'll do this. He'll answer them for you. I'd be honored to ask them on your behalf. There's a lot to this, brother. So I have a couple more questions. Let's go back, because I'm still trying to go back to the previous question, because it's a good question. It's one that I really don't totally have completely nailed down yet, and I would like to cover this first. So I bought a brand new motorcycle. I got the MCO or MSO, which is called a manufacturer certificate of origin, or manufacturer statement of origin, which is the actual real original private ownership document that you actually send into the DMV, unbeknownst to you. If you buy a brand new car, when they say, would you like us to handle license and registration for you? And you say yes, they send that MCO or MSO released to the DMV. So just as a little bit of a background on people who may not be familiar with how all that works,
I got the MCO or MSO and I told the general manager. I created a whole relationship with the general manager. I wore my California Superbike School jersey that I had. The first thing they said, "Holy shit, California Superbike School, what's up?" Because I had already called down to a different dealership, and they didn't want to deal with the MCO MSO thing. They thought it was kind of weird, so I switched up my behavior and I went in physically, kind of created more of a relationship. Found out that they did have like a recent legal situation with somebody who was threatening to sue them. I gave them some advice on that. I wore that jersey. I went in with a friend. I test drove some motorcycles. I talked more with the guy. I then at that point started talking about the MCO MSO. It was very weird to the general manager. I said, I'm only willing to buy this if we give me the MCO MSO. I'm not looking to register this vehicle at all. And he was like, okay. And then there were some documents he wanted me to fill out with the state. I filled out like the absolute basic minimum. There was a power of attorney section on there. I did not sign that. And he made me tow the vehicle out of, he's like, the only way I'm going to do this is if you tow the vehicle off the lot. You can't drive it off the lot. And I said, okay. We wrote up a statement of facts, and it says right on the statement of facts, the purchaser of the motorcycle, I watched the person with the motorcycle, physically tow the motorcycle off the lot. So I walked away with the MCO. Then about a month later, I got a certificate of title and a registration in the mail from the Department of Motor Vehicles, laughing hysterically because I do not want any of that, and they will not be issuing any of that. I have a trademark on my name in all capital letters, and the certificate of title is actually legally a security. So they actually illegally produced a security based off of a trademarked name, which is like felonies out the fucking wazoo, which I am going to be going after the DMV for aggressively in litigation for like $100 million. Not just for that, but I'm literally going after them for a lifetime of slavery, a lifetime of indentured servitude, a lifetime of a failure to perform their fiduciary duties, a lifetime of terror and anxiety associated with not realizing that this is a commercial activity and that the police can pull me over, anxiety every time there is a police officer. The DMV is, I just can't wait. It's going to be the most glorious flames shooting out of the buildings you've ever seen in your entire life. Okay. Now, with that said, I took all that certificate of title and all that trash and all those purloined and illegal securities that they had produced based off of my all caps name or the motorcycle in question. And I sent them all back with giant red letters saying void since inception, destroy this document since its inception, vitiated since its inception, circled them, sent all that back, stapled to this particular affidavit and notice of void contracts, right? So I sent one copy to the officer of the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles, one copy to the general manager, and then I put a little note on here, this is only being mailed to you for because you can scare the fuck out of people with this shit, so you got to be a little careful, right? So yeah. I let the general manager know because he's a cool guy. He's just trying to do his job best he can. He was really scared, but he was cool enough to go through with the remainder of the transaction. So I don't want to burn that bridge for everyone else who may want to go in there and get motorcycles. And then now, because the general manager experienced me, now he's never going to do it again for anybody else. I'm not going to burn that bridge for all my people. You know what I mean? So I put on there, relax, like he's a good guy. I'm not worried about Mike at all. This is just a little bit of an issue that needs to be addressed. Some definitions. We got motor vehicle, and then we've got used for commercial purposes from HNUSC 31. And then, I forget, we got a lot of audio listeners. Okay, so let's go audio on this. So at the end of April 2023, I purchased a 2023 Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS VIN number, which I deleted for this video, in full from BMW Motorcycles of Burbank. During the transaction, I told Mike, the general manager, that my main concern is that I will be getting the original manufacturer's statement of origin, MSO. Mike agreed, and at the closing of this transaction, after the motorcycle was fully paid for, we filled out the back of the MSO together, and the original MSO was given to me as I took possession of the motorcycle. So you write it in a way where you're painting a picture that no one can ever interpret as something otherwise than what actually occurred. You see how painstaking every single detail. See that we agreed at the closing, after the motorcycle was fully paid for, we filled out the back of the MSO together, and the original MSO was given to me as I took. See how detailed it's like there's no way you're going to be able to pin little pinholes in that on me in a court of law, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, during the transaction between myself and Mike, he was under the false impression that the motorcycle needed to be registered, quote unquote, as a commercial motor vehicle prior to me being able to take possession of the motorcycle. Due to the situation, I was forced under threat of not being able to take possession of the motorcycle to fill out some basic paperwork regarding the motorcycle to be sent to the corporation known as the Department of Motor Vehicles. I signed without prejudice and as the agent on behalf of the principal on all the documentation, and I have enclosed a copy of my durable power of attorney for your records. I never signed the power of attorney section in any of the documentation sent to the Department of Motor Vehicles because I never wanted to release my or the principal's superior title of the motorcycle. I will not be using the motorcycle in any commercial capacity, and I negate all contracts that myself and the principal have with any corporate element. I do not live in the United States as is defined in 28 U.S.C. 3002 subsection 15 and as described in UCC 9-307H. I also do not reside in the state of California, hence why the address used on the paperwork begins with C/O, which stands for care of, which means I receive mail here. I do not live here. Any bonds or securities that were created on behalf of the principal meaning the all caps name, need to be instantaneously closed, and all currency collected or created on behalf of this action needs to be immediately issued to the principal, or it is a serious securities violation. I have enclosed the, quote, motor vehicle registration, end quote, and the, quote, certificate of title, end quote, in my mailing to the receiver number 1 above, which is the Department of Motor Vehicles. Please permanently destroy this, quote, certificate of title, end quote, and also permanently destroy the, quote, registration, end quote. Please also permanently destroy any other papers, securities, digital documents, accounts, communications, or anything regarding this motorcycle or the principal. This motorcycle will not be operated in commerce, and I hereby withdraw all contract or interest with any and all parties involving this motorcycle. The principal will not be involving himself in the, quote, motor vehicle theft prevention program, end quote, otherwise known as, quote, registration, end quote, as found in 34 USC 12611. I do not wish to contract with the corporate, foreign, state of California or the Department of Motor Vehicles or any other incorporated entity at all whatsoever. For the background on this, the audio listeners, state of California is a corporation. That corporation is physically located in the District of Columbia. So California Republic is the actual state. State of California is a fake incorporated corporation that is used to trick people into thinking that they're signing on behalf of the location of California when they are not. So this whole state of California thing, I put the word foreign next to it because it is foreign. State of California is located in the District of Columbia. So I'll reread that because I think most people who listen to this might not know that. I do not wish to contract with the corporate foreign state of California or the Department of Motor Vehicles or any other incorporated entity at all whatsoever. They're all foreign. This affidavit expresses a complete disavowal and total rejection of all contracts, as this motorcycle will not be involved in commerce for the duration of superior ownership by either myself or the principal. All contracts are now void as if they never existed in the first place because they didn't. I have enclosed proof of trademark of the principal's name, Brandon Joe Williams, in all capital letters, as per serial number 97335-158, which is a trademark that I filed with the USTPO. All uses of the principal's name are to be instantaneously and fully scrubbed and removed from all databases, computers, paperwork, etc. This motorcycle is now being placed along with the MSO in an unincorporated private irrevocable trust of myself as the agent, as the trustee. This motorcycle will only be used for non-commercial private purposes. As for future possible transfer of this motorcycle, I will be transferring superior title to this vehicle using either a notarized bill of sale and or the MSO itself. Please send a letter to the P.O. Box found at the top of this request once the requests in this letter have been completed. Please complete a full removal of all information regarding this motorcycle, myself as the agent, and also any information of the principal within 10 business days of receipt. If there are any refunds available for any fees that were paid, please return them to either the principal at the P.O. Box mentioned at the top of this letter or mail that refund back to Mike at BMW Motorcycles of Burbank. Thank you. And then I notarize that document. Now, this is complicated because I was pissed as fuck. I was fucking absolutely going to like horrible things. And I don't normally get like that, right? I was fucking so pissed, so fucking angry, bro. Like fury, like God's fury. So I was trying hard to be matter of fact, and I think I did a damn good job. There's not a whole lot of emotion or freak out in this at all, but this is like
it's very to the point, dude. Very fucking to the point.
This is how you write that. An affidavit is a statement of what occurred within the perception of your own reality to the best of your ability to tell that reality as realistic and as objectively as possible. That's what you're doing in an affidavit, right? So you're saying an affidavit is, this is what happened within the confines of my own truth, as truthful as I can speak, and is in relation to the true events that occurred, and you're saying it under penalty of perjury. So let's say, for example, I never bought this motorcycle, and they're like, he's lying, and I could go to prison for a felony for perjury, for lying. Let's say I never got the MSO. Let's say I am transporting cargo or persons for hire, which is hilarious on a motorcycle. Let's say these things weren't true and they could prove it. There'd be perjury involved, right? Now this gets hilarious. This gets way funnier, because now what I'll do is I'll send you the response that they sent me from that, which is absolutely gut-wrenchingly hilarious. Let me find this. So real quick, while I'm finding that, just to cover the original, you can take your certificate of title, write up a notarized bill of sale. You could say inside of a notarized bill, you can sell it to your wife or your friend, or even to yourself if you kind of want to go in that direction. It's kind of weird, but you can have the all caps name selling the vehicle to a private individual. You can do it that way too, where it'd be Brandon Joe Williams in all caps is selling this vehicle to Williams, Brandon Joe, or however you want to say it. You just want to separate the names out in where the B is capitalized in Brandon, the J is capitalized in Joe, and the W is capitalized in Williams. Actually, we can even just write one right now. I can actually just write it live on the show, but let me show you their response really quick, and then we can do it. Because this is a good question, because this is not necessarily something that I have completely nailed down yet. Obviously, as you can tell. Let's go to. Give me just a second to find this. We can do a little singing. You want to do a little singing?
Yeah, we can do humming, but I'll let you know also, we just remind you rather, we have a heart out today just due to a commitment that I've got, but I definitely want to have you back on to fill one of those out live with us. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, dude, but how
much time do we have right now?
Let's give it like 10, 15 at most, man. And that's going to be tight.
Okay,
just these heart outs blow, you know what I mean? But that means that we have a stacked list of things here that I am noting for you to come back on and talk to us about. Also,
okay, so I could do 15 minutes. Let's do 15 minutes.
Let's do that.
I could do it. I could do both in 15 minutes. So
I know you can. I believe in you completely.
Let's go back here to this share screen. Here we go. So here's the response. It took them like freaking 2.5 months. I thought I would never hear from them, to be honest with you. Because I was like, okay, that's fine with me. I mean, you're going to either follow my instructions or there's going to be litigation, which, they didn't follow my instructions, as you're going to see here. So there will be litigation. It's very simple, right? Department of Motor Vehicles Customer Services Division, Sacramento, Brandon Joe Williams. Ironically, they didn't spell it in all caps, which is interesting, comma. This letter is in response to your recent correspondence. The Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, and its employees disagree with your statements and will not be bound with them. So when I read that,
bad day too. When
I read that, bro, like true rage was boiling inside of my chest. And I, as you know, I don't usually get like that. That first sentence was, oh yeah, this is going $100 million lawsuit. I don't care if it takes me a fucking decade and a full jury trial. I'm going all the way. I will dump tens of thousands of dollars into this litigation. This will not end. Okay. Until they acquiesce. Here's the next line in the letter. Every person within the boundaries of the state of California, which is a corporation, is subject to its laws and must comply with the California requirements for licensing, registration, and insurance in order to operate a motor vehicle on public roads. Now, the thing about this sentence that's so sad is that is true. Anyone who states, which means naturalizes, the definition of naturalization from 8 USC 1101 subsection 823 says, the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So when you state that you live in state of California, which is physically located in the District of Columbia, you then naturalize into the District of Columbia and you become a U.S. citizen. So when they say every person within the boundaries of the state of California, which is anyone who says they live in the state of California, you don't actually have to physically live there, is subject to its laws and must comply with the California requirements for licensing, registration, and insurance in order to operate a motor vehicle on public roads. That's actually true. And that's the part that's so depressing, is because they're so brainwashed that they actually say it correctly and they have no idea what they're saying, right? Next sentence of the letter. Under California law, driving a vehicle is a privilege granted by the state through its power to regulate traffic. It's not a right, regardless of whether the travel is for personal use or commercial gain. DMV does not have the authority to exempt you from licensing and registration laws. This paragraph is not necessarily untrue. Someone living in the District of Columbia, it is a privilege. It isn't a right. Someone living in the unincorporated California Republic, it's a right, not a privilege. So it all depends on location, domicile, residence, citizenship versus nationality, and you being very, very clear in all of those different aspects as to whether or not you're traveling as a right or it's a privilege. Okay. So this is all the litigation is building here, right? This is all litigation here. This is just the beginning. This is what the basis of the complaint for the litigation will be started with, right? It says here's the next letter in the letter, next sentence, next paragraph. Additionally, California law establishes punitive measures to be taken when a person operates a motor vehicle without complying with licensing and registration laws. The person is subject to citation and or the vehicle is subject to impoundment by a law enforcement officer, which again is true within the confines of the District of Columbia or the corporation known as State of California. Here's the next paragraph. This is the last correspondence you will receive from DMV concerning these issues. DMV will not expend any further resources responding to future correspondence. And then magically, there is absolutely no name on this. This comes from a ghost, a complete shadow boxer, just like everybody else. It comes from the very specific customer care section, customer service division, Department of Motor Vehicles. No name, no signature. It's a ghost. A computer responded to my documentation. Okay.
But does that automatically make it bullshit because nobody would sign their name to it?
They don't sign their name to it because they know I'll probably come after them. Which,
well, that's the point though. Don't you have the right to face your accuser? So can't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this is going to be litigation from hell. I'm going to win this litigation. And then I'm going to buy a mailing list of every single DMV employee and every single DMV in every state. And I'm going to personally mail them, every single DMV employee in the entire country, a copy of my lawsuit. And then I'll let them know that they're next in line and they can read the lawsuit for themselves. Okay. And I'll probably have a little landing page set up, or they can go on there and see a video of me covering the entire lawsuit. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to pay for all of that advertising and all of that marketing through all of my winnings in court. So it's going to be.
Dude, I love this so much because it's such a fuck you, but it's like the best kind of fuck you. It's so good. And I know I'm thinking of the production value you're going to get. Like when you get, I don't know, green screen and a producer that's like, hey, I know really CGI really, really well. Your shit's going to just like go nuts. I need to connect you with T. Snyder.
I have someone with that now. I have someone. Okay. I actually have a guy who's actually a litigant himself, who's also a huge producer who wants to actually do TV shows with me and stuff on this. So
perfect.
We've got some stuff cooking there, brother. We've got some stuff cooking there. But just to be clear, everything that I do hinges on the definition of peace. So just want to be clear. While I did feel a lot of rage toward the DMV, I don't usually feel a lot of rage. I was very upset. This will get cleaned up. I'm not going after the DMV in any sort of revengeful way. I'm not going after the DMV in any sort of retribution, but I am going after the DMV in a way where the DMV is going to need to clean up their act. It's completely unacceptable. It is wildly outside the confines of the codes and the laws. It is extremely illegal what is occurring, and within the confines of the federal corporation of which I am at peace, I am going to assist the federal corporation in cleaning up a renegade aspect of their own organization. And that is the way I look at it.
We're going to get into a deep philosophical conversation next time you and I talk about that this place isn't broken in a sense that it's meant to run this way. And so whenever you become the sand in the gears, which I love what you're doing, this is awesome. I just want to talk to you about sort of the large concepts when it comes to this kind of shit. You're nailing it on this. I want to expand it to philosophy after that for our next conversation, among a bunch of things, dude. Every time you come on, my notes are just like crazy. I'm writing on the side of shit. I'm like, oh my God. And so hang out after we close here if you don't mind, and we'll just book the next one for next month, man. So guys, all the way to find him, of course, located down in the show description. We're also going to absolutely talk about trademarking your straw man name. Actually, just give us a little bit on that because it's fucking brilliant. That means they can't send you anything because they're using your name, right?
It's the same thing as if you study the Michael Jordan thing. When Nike did the huge contract with Michael Jordan, they trademarked his name, they trademarked everything about him. The police couldn't even give Michael Jordan tickets unless they had permission from Nike because Nike was the trademark holder. So if you want to study this from like a little bit of a more fascinating angle and you want to find a lot of information that isn't totally buried, you study the relationship between the trademark between Nike and Michael Jordan during that whole time period. You're going to learn a lot about this. You will file your trademark on the USPTO. It's not the simplest thing in the world. There's a lot of waiting. Once you file it, there's a huge waiting period. Then there's some additional documentation that needs to be filled out. It's not that complicated, but again, it just takes forever. And then there's another huge waiting period. And then there's the last part is what's called statement of use, which basically shows that you're actually using that trademark in a commercial activity. You can create a little business card, put your name in all capital letters, and then say consultant or whatever you want. And it just shows that or like what I did was I made a pink fanny pack and I just put my name in all capital letters on it. and I sell that. I actually sell that item in my store. Literally, right? So it's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. I can actually show it to you. Let's end on this. Let's end on some funny shit. So on onestupidfuck.com, I've never shown this on a show because this is a big secret. But if you go down to the bottom of the website, no one knows this, but there's a secret menu. And in the secret menu, there's a store. And in the store, I have hats. I have a cum towel. I have a coffee mug, and I have women's bikinis. Right. So the women's bikinis and the crop top for y'all bitches. These are $69, $69, $69 because they're no longer They're no longer offered. So I wanted to leave them on because they're hilarious, but you can't actually buy them. So I just increased the price to a point where no one would ever buy them on purpose because you can't actually buy these. But if you go to
the names of these, will you read those please for the audio only audience?
Yeah, here's the fanny pack for all caps name. So this is my proof that I'm using this trademarked name in commerce. Okay, which is fucking hilarious, right? Here I'll read you one of my favorites. This is my the cum towel is a good one.
The cum towel's great.
Trunks for your trunk. So I have a cloth cock stiffener gilf edition and milf edition, and I have a one-piece pickler. Okay. I designed all these, dude. Shit's so fucking funny, right? Look at this. This one's probably my favorite description. This is my coffee mug, which I actually have some over here on my counter. I have all my own merch all over my apartment, right? Nice. So here's the quote coffee end quote mug. Here's the description, right? We all know those days when you're 1 hour into work and you would love nothing more than to put a shiny 45 caliber into your mouth and pull the trigger. Don't fret. I got you, boy. This mug is so fucking badass that people won't even notice that your cup is full of about 18% coffee and 82% whiskey. Secretly, you and I will know that your ratio of coffee to whiskey is just right.
I can't wait until you go on QVC with this shit, you know? Is that right?
QVC,
oh my God. This is fucking great.
This is my hat. Big ass, big life is the name of my hat because it's got my, right? Be the biggest cocksucking piece of shit in the room with this horrific abomination of a hat. Show off my gloriously tight ass everywhere you go and show off how proud you are to have learned about law from some childish retard on the internet. It's fucking good, right?
Bro, it's brilliant. You couldn't have a better picture. You couldn't have a better everything. God, it's so great.
So you can actually buy these and it will actually get shipped out to you with like a special message and it's a cute little package and everything. Yeah, I worked with, I think it's called Printful. And they sent all this shit out for me. Yeah. So it's actually shockingly good quality stuff. I thought it was going to be like absolute fucking trash.
That towel does a good job with all the cum then?
Yeah. There's never been a greater opportunity to lay down a piece of cloth when your woman demands sexy time while on her womanly moments of the month. This towel is the one you want to keep right next to your bed all the times to make sure that all bodily fluids are safely absorbed. This towel is also great for those of you watching my 4 or 5-star passport videos, getting confused, heading down to the local farmer's market, getting a massive cucumber, then making a big mess, jamming it up your own ass, you stupid fuck.
Especially breaking that thing out after like an intimate moment, you know, try not to get the candles, try not to get it in the candles and shit. And she's all got
it's a great way. It's a great way for a chick to get around too real fucking fast. You know what I mean? Like the dude's going to be hard in seconds with this bad boy. You know what I mean?
It'll be easy to find too in the dark, you know, it's brightly colored. Well done. Oh my God.
I have it right here. Funny. I have a whole bunch. I actually use them. I wear my own trunks. For the pool that I have, I use my own towel. I'm like fully fucking decked out in my brand whenever I go to the beach or something like that. So it's pretty fun.
You gotta be proud of your shit. That's the whole reason I made all these journals and shit. I use all of these. That's why I made them. I just happened to put them out for other people. And then, yeah, I'm rocking our publisher's logo t-shirt right now. It's, this is a fucking crazy place. I love that you're having fun with this, man. I'm so where you are with just trolling the fuck out of this bitch. And just also, though, in a do no harm, take no shit kind of a way. But you are absolutely crushing it with this. And so, like I said, stay on here if you don't mind. And let's talk about the next time you're coming on. Guys, check in the show description all the ways to find him. Again, episode 206. It was 5 months later. Great memory. And all that stuff will be located down below. We'll look forward to seeing him again because we always have so many fucking questions for you. But thank you for empowering us as well as just fucking being who you are, man. Showing up.
I love the show, man. I fucking love the show. Like, I'll come on whenever you want.